All right, everyone, we start off today talking about a little bit of economic news because the Fed is finally responding to what it initially had dismissed as transitory inflation. This should probably worry people because you also have a problem with joblessness, which the federal government's exacerbating by continuing to give people more to not work than they would get for their old jobs. You've got shortages going on. Part of this is bottlenecking due to COVID. Part of it's, again, due to fiscal mismanagement, political intrigue. You've had shipping problems as well over the last year. But everything is sort of coalescing together, and it's causing a situation where I can't imagine that there's not going to be a significant prolonged Biden recession. Now, of course, Biden won't initially take the blame for it, despite the fact that his policies are causing the inflation. They're causing pressures on various markets. The fact that U.S. investors' confidence is lower appears to have already affected China to some degree. They've got a real estate system called Evergrande. I think it's the second largest in all China. They're going belly up. Since Chinese real estate is one of their biggest markets, that's really going to hammer them. And I warned people, by the way, years ago that China was a paper dragon. As goes China, so goes the U.S. because of the interchangeable nature of such a large proportion of their economies. If China has a problem and starts going into a tailspin and U.S. investors freak out, that's going to cause a recession in the United States. Long term, it would strengthen the economy, but short term, oh boy, would there be pain. Now, first and foremost, before I get into the Bidenflation, Biden recession situation here, keep in mind down below, if you're watching this video on YouTube, there will be a pinned comment with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. Keep in mind I make 2 exclusive videos a day on those platforms that don't go on YouTube, sometimes for algorithmic purposes. YouTube doesn't like it if you upload more than 2 videos in a day anymore. Used to love it, not so much anymore. Sometimes it's subject matter. There are verboten topics you're not allowed to talk about on YouTube. And sometimes my opinion on allowed topics is verboten on YouTube, and so I have to put my opinion on these other sites. By the way, Odyssey, I believe, absorbing a huge inflow of people from Trovo. That was a site that people were using as sort of a fake new tech, I guess, but they started banning a bunch of people, and so they Sargon to the platform Patreon style, and now a lot of people have migrated. So if you're on Trovo, take a look at Odyssey, I suppose. Now, it was predictable, like I certainly did, and I think many of you did as well. I think I'm preaching a little bit to the choir on this. I think it was predictable that when you have a president who clearly doesn't understand economics much and is demented, that doesn't tend to strengthen your economy. Another thing is that the Western governments, they keep imposing lockdownerism. That's affected the economies of the West too. When we talk about shortages, oftentimes they're like, well, it's because of shipping. Well, it's actually, you've got higher demand and the pace of output can't keep up. Those play a role because demand has surged in the wake of COVID, but think about why the supply is lower. It's because lockdowners in the industrialized world destroyed huge swaths of industry by not letting people go to work. They're still doing that today in Australia. They're still doing that today to an extent in the UK and parts of the EU, certainly in a few parts of Asia, in certain US states. You're hampering the supply, but the demand is still there. By the way, when leftoids who are on board with the COVID lockdownerism, rant and rave about Amazon made record profits, Bernie Sanders will come out, oh, Amazon's so obscenely filthy rich, they made billions of dollars while everyone else suffered. But yes, Bernie, you caused that because they were the only one that had the goods and was willing to ship them, therefore taking care of the demand side of things while the supply side of things was being erased because you stopped all small businesses from competing with sites like Amazon or box stores like Walmart or Target. They were allowed to stay open, at least in brownout mode. Ma and Pa bookstore was closed. Ma and Pa dairy was closed. Small regional chains were closed. One of the first casualties I remember in my hometown in Rutland was Thomas's Dairy right up the road. Well, there aren't that many kinds of milk in Tops that are available for sale. You should have seen in February when I went there, well, half the dairy section's empty. There are shortages, and part of it is because of lockdowners. Part of it is because of Faucism. Part of it is because an initial medical response last year morphed into a socio-political debate, and now there are significant parts of the world where you can't go to do business. or you have onerous, burdensome regulations applied to them that nobody wants to actually deal with, to the point where their business is like, oh, we're going to test everyone. Well, then, have someone, they're fully vaccinated, they still have to take weekly tests, and like, fuck it, and they go pick it. And you've got someone who, for some health reason, can't get vaccinated. Pregnant women are going to get kicked out of the workforce, just so we're aware. They can't get vaccinated. So it's like, well, you're bum out of luck. You can't come into work. Fuck you. I would say this has something to do with the supply and demand discrepancies that we're seeing, but this is something not being discussed at the moment much by the legacy media. Regardless, we have a recession looming. I think we only need a couple more months of significant inflation without any wage rises probably to fulfill the definition at this point. We've already had it month after month. Look, jobs numbers are coming in well below expected, to the point where Biden has to artificially extend the period of time that he talks about. You'll notice in his economic updates, he's like, well, for the last 6 months we averaged yada 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 amount of jobs. That's to hide the fact that in the last month they came in 500,000 below expected. It's to mask the fact that I think, what was it? It was March's data or April's data. I think it came in below as well. Yeah, unemployment ticked up temporarily, actually. With regards to wages, so wages have grown. Yeah, but largely not under you. Not under Trump. During that period of time, wages actually grew outpacedly. Under you, they've been stagnant. By the way, another sign of stagflation. Because we have done nothing about China, and because we have encouraged no U.S. businesses to wean themselves off China, if they go belly up because their markets are beginning to show desperate signs of strain because of the world economic situation impacting them, it's going to cause havoc in the United States. You think there are shortages now? My genuine advice, again, when the COVID thing first started entering public discourse, I said several months before shortages happened, people should have a couple of weeks of shit on hand. I neglected to mention the toilet paper, so sorry for anyone whose pipes got clogged because of all the microwave burritos they were storing up beforehand. Big mistake. You should have gone with something a little more gentle, maybe. I told people you should have a few weeks of food on hand. It's good to have a firearm and ammo, but that's just in general. You should have one anyway, regardless of the situation. Even the good times, you should still be armed. There can still be a burglary, whatever. Fucking Manny the rapist tries to break through your window, and you have to deal with the situation. You should have these things, a medical kit and stuff. It doesn't take much money to prep for these things. And if you're looking at what I expected to be a few weeks of shortages, which is what happened, that'll take care of it. Unfortunately, if we end up with a Jimmy Carter-style stagflationary prolonged recession situation, the shortages will be more impactful than that. Most people don't have the money to prep for that level and degree and duration of shortages. My next best advice is to learn a new skill. I really do mean that. You're linguistically talented, speed through another language and become conversational. Good with your hands, maybe you're a carpenter. Look into getting training in electrical work too. Literally. You know how to grow things. Maybe you don't know how to cook them very well. Take up a new skill, because skills are marketable. The greatest wealth you can have is in skills, more than anything else. More than in even intangible assets. It's like, hey, I've got 10 guns. But that guy has one gun and he simply is trained more and he's way better at shooting it. Who's got technically more wealth? Well, the second guy, if he really, really needs to and a total shit hits the fan situation, probably kills the first guy and takes 10 guns. I think we see the situation here. That's why investing in precious metals has to be balanced with other things. I've got a stack of silver. Too bad someone with a little piece of lead just took it all away from me. Just keep that in mind. Shortages are already here. There are already places where the backlogs are beginning to impact the online distribution networks. They're not getting better because coronatarianism is preventing new factories and new output to take care of the increased supply. So you've got to when you have a discrepancy between supply and demand, it'll play havoc with the cost, the availability, and things like that. It's elementary. You don't need an economics degree to understand this. Everyone wants coconuts, but there's only a few coconut trees left. Coconuts are going to be a bit scarce and pretty expensive. It's as simple as that. But supposedly, this is the big kicker. when the federal government is tackling inflation by selling bonds and shit, it's obvious that they're worried about the inflation numbers, and they're not expecting that they're transitory. Because if they were transitory, this mythological new term that we've gotten to describe some of these things, there wouldn't be a need to respond because it'd solve itself. Inflation would go back down to a sub 1% level, and it'd solve itself. It wouldn't be a problem now, would it? So why would they decide to do this? That's because it will be a long-term problem. They're expecting stagflation. That's about all. Peace out.